Thank you, John. Thank you for having me here today. So let me just provide a little bit of context to my comments on today's topic. I'm representing the remittance industry, and we are typically providing fast and secure, convenient funds transfers domestically and across borders, person to person. And what we're dealing with is typically smaller amounts of money. 200 to 300 US dollars is the typical amount which is sent. What is characterizing our industry compared to the traditional payments providers is that we are offering money in minutes, which means that we are a very good complement to traditional payment methods. And we are also typically serving consumers that are either underbanked or underserved for different reasons. Our transactions are normally 100% transparent to the sender because the sender is paying for all the costs related to the transaction. So the sender will know exactly how much money the receiver will actually get in the end, which is a big point for consumers. We're operating in a market which is estimated to be about 550 billion US dollars last year. And I want to point out, which I think is a very important topic for the discussion, that there are estimates that the informal market of person-to-person payments is about as big as the formal market. And I think one of the jobs that we have to really take very carefully when we look at regulation of this market is how can we devise a legislative framework which is driving more of these flows into the regulated market. The company I represent, Western Union, we have actually been involved in money transfer since 1870. And we are serving our customers through 515,000 points of service in over 200 countries around the globe. And we now also today offer these services on over 100,000 ATM machines. In Europe, we operate 140,000 points of service and over 50,000 ATMs. We operate under a payments institution license. We were one of the first institutions to take out such a license after the PSD was introduced. And we also have a credit institution in Austria through which we are serving our corporate customers and our online customers. We do have also a B2B business for businesses sending money to businesses, and which is an area of focus for us, and it particularly targeting small and medium-sized enterprises. So, back to the topic, today's theme. I'd like to first comment on PSD1. I think it has been a fairly successful piece of legislation. And the reason I say that is that we have today over 600 authorized payment institutions in Europe, which is not bad at all after a couple of years being in operation. We also have over 2,100 so-called small PIs that are operating domestically. So a lot of new companies have come to market with new services to consumers. But I think there is one area which is very important to point out. The regulatory framework is just one piece of all of the rules and regulations that we are affected by as operators in the market. We have anti-money laundering regulation, we have data protection rules, we have security requirements and other norms. And it is very, very important that we look holistically at all of these rules, how they interact, to be able to drive the market forward. So I think the key message from our side today is that we actually right now have an opportunity to address that particular issue, because we have a number of legislation, number of different types of regulation legislation being discussed. We have the PSD2 and the MIF regulation, we have the SEPA governance arrangements, we have the important anti-money laundering framework, and we have the data privacy rules being discussed. So we need to look at how all of these rules and regulations interact and how we can make sure that we get a framework which is helpful for innovation and creating new solutions for consumers. I want to mention as one example the absurdity of the current rules. When we are complying with AML regulation under our license in Ireland, our PI license in Ireland, when we do that in Spain, we are immediately in breach of the local Spanish data privacy rules. And this is creating uncertainty for the players in the market and also additional cost, which eventually, of course, will be borne by consumers. We also believe very strongly that the regulatory framework has to be technology neutral. And we should also make sure that we get maximum harmonization, whatever that is possible, so that we can create an environment in Europe where players have an ability to get the critical mass they require to get economically viable solutions. And I think this is clearly a consumer interest, because we are dealing with people's money. If the players involved are not able to make money on these services, we are not able to protect our consumers' money, and this is very, very important. Our last point here is also that it is important not to favor one business model over the other. We have to state for a fact that in Europe we are very much bank-oriented. In other parts of the world that is not the case. For example, in the US there is a discrete set of regulation for non-banking institutions, the so-called MSBs, and that is something that has been driving innovation in that market. And I think it's important when we look at Europe that we create a framework which is equally conducive to spur and support innovation. A couple of specific points on PSD2 to start with. We are very happy about a number of things here. We are very happy about the fact that new service providers are in scope. We are very happy about the stronger role of the EBA. I think that's very positive. And also the inclusion of the one-leg transactions I think is good. It will provide more clarity to consumers, and so this is all very positive. But there is one specific aspect of PSD2 where we feel that there is room for improvement. And that is related to the fitness and properness assessment of agents. As a non-bank institution, we are operating through intermediaries. So we are signing up agents in different classes of trade, and we are required, according to the rules, to make a fitness and properness assessment of our agents. Now, according to the existing set of rules, there are exactly the same requirements whether I sign up a mom-and-pop store on the corner or whether I go and sign Deutsche Postbank. And we think that this is an area that needs to be addressed because it is creating a lot of problems for the players in the market. The second example I would like to mention is also the access to bank accounts. And I was just having a brief conversation here over the coffee in the coffee break. And while it is not an immediate issue for Western Union as a company, it is an issue for many other money transfer providers and also other third-party providers. And we have to realize the fact that if we want to support a non-banking sector, the access to bank accounts is really, really critical. And we have here a very concrete proposal to be able to deal with this. And we think it would be very helpful to introduce a specific dispute resolution mechanism, like a type of ombudsman, if you wish, where smaller players that are denied access to bank accounts can go and get their issues escalated, and where you can get a third-party intervention into the discussion to see if something can be done to help these companies. Let me close by a few comments on the European Retail Payments Board, the successor of the SEPA Council. We very much welcome the establishment of this institution, and given the important role it will play, it will really be helpful in defining future areas of work for the EU retail payments area. It is great that it has become more inclusive, so we see there that there are non-bank representatives and also consumer protection groups, etc., which is very, very helpful. You may know that Western Union is taking a very active part in the European Payments Institutions Federation, EPIF, and we are today, this institution is representing about 1/3 of all of the authorized payments institutions in the market. And we really fully committed to EPIF, and we are hopeful that we can play a very important role here in the ERPB. We think one of the issues that we want to drive within the framework of EPIF is the establishment of EU-wide electronic authentication and identification solutions. This, I think, is a very, very important area also to support innovation in this space. the issue of KYC for remote transactions is a very, very important one. And I think electronic authentication here could be extremely helpful to the market. So with that, I leave it back to you, John. Thank you very much for your attention.